Gordon, Bane has escaped.
A quiet man is not doing nothing. He is training, studying, saving, building, fixing, learning, removing distractions, and strengthening the parts of his life that were weak. He is not posting every step. He is not asking everyone for validation. He is not explaining the dream to people who would not understand the work anyway. He keeps the mission close because the mission is still growing. That is the first lesson. Anything still fragile must be protected. A dream spoken too early becomes entertainment for other people. A dream worked on quietly becomes power. Look at how the world actually works. A volcano does not warn everyone every day while pressure builds underneath the ground. The mountain looks still from the outside, yet beneath it, heat is moving, pressure is rising, rock is shifting, and something powerful is being prepared. Then one day the eruption happens and no one needs an explanation. The evidence is in front of them. That is how you should move. Let people think nothing is happening. Let them assume you are the same. Let them speak from old information. Your job is not to correct their opinion every week. Your job is to build enough pressure through work that one day their opinion becomes outdated. The final result should speak louder than your mouth ever could. Stars are the same. A star is not born by making noise. It forms through pressure, heat, gravity, and time. Small things gather, dust gathers, gas gathers, pressure increases. Nothing looks impressive at first. Then the fire begins. That is not vague, that is discipline. Your life works the same way. One workout does not make you powerful. One focused hour does not make you successful. One saved pound does not make you wealthy. One page does not make you a writer. Yet when those small actions are repeated quietly for months and years, they begin to gather weight. The world only notices the fire. It rarely sees the pressure that created it. Let them miss the early work. The early work is not for them. Noise weakens a man because it gives him a fake reward before the real reward has been earned. You tell someone your plan. They react with excitement, and for a moment your brain feels like progress has happened. Nothing has changed. No skill has improved. No money has been made. No body has been built. No project has been finished. All you received was a cheap emotional payment for future work you have not done yet. That is dangerous because it steals hunger. It makes the dream feel partly completed when the first brick has not even been placed. Silence protects you from that. When you do not announce, you do not get fake applause. Without fake applause, the only way to feel progress is to actually make progress. A man who works loudly often starts performing instead of improving. He begins thinking about how the journey looks instead of whether the work is actually being done. The gym becomes content. The business becomes a status symbol. The discipline becomes a costume. The dream becomes something to display instead of something to finish. This is how people lose themselves. They become addicted to being seen as someone who is trying. A serious man does not need that. He does not want credit for the attempt. He wants the result. He knows the world respects proof, not promises. So he keeps his head down. He fixes the weak habits. He does the boring sessions. He lets the work become stronger than the image. Silence also protects you from weak opinions. When you tell people what you are building too early, they bring their fears into it. One person tells you, it is too risky. Another says it will take too long. Someone else laughs because they only know the old version of you. A jealous person may discourage you softly while pretending to care. A lazy person may call your ambition unrealistic. because your discipline exposes their own lack of it. You do not need all those voices inside your construction site. Early progress needs focus, not debate. Keep the plan private until the foundation is strong. A building does not invite crowds while the ground is still being dug. It waits until the structure can stand. This does not mean hiding because you are afraid. That is different. Silence is not cowardice when action is happening behind it. Silence becomes powerful only when it contains work. Sitting alone and doing nothing is not mysterious. It is wasting time. Refusing to speak while training every day is different. Not posting while building a business is different. Staying quiet while learning a skill is different. Keeping your head down while fixing your finances is different. That kind of silence has weight because something is growing inside it. You are not disappearing. You are becoming difficult to recognize. You are allowing the old image people have of you to expire while you build the next version in private. The reason this matters is simple. Your energy is limited. Every explanation costs energy. Every announcement costs energy. Every argument about your dream costs energy. Every attempt to prove yourself before the result exists costs energy. That energy should go into the work. If you are trying to change your body, train. If you are trying to change your money, learn and execute. If you are trying to change your mind, read, think and practice focus. If you are trying to change your future, build the daily system that future requires. Do not waste power trying to convince people that you are changing. Change so clearly that convincing becomes unnecessary. The strongest proof is not a speech. It is a result that cannot be denied. Start with one private mission. Choose something real, your body, your money, your discipline, your business, your skill, your mind. Then create a simple rule. Work on it every day without announcing it. Track the work privately. Count the sessions, count the pages, count the hours, count the reps, count the money saved, count the tasks completed. Evidence builds confidence, not attention, not praise, not people saying they believe in you. Evidence. When the numbers grow, your belief grows with them. After enough evidence, you will not need to talk big because you will know exactly what you have done. Quiet progress creates a confidence that noise cannot fake. There will come a point where people notice something is different. They may not know when it happened. They may not know how long you were working. They may not understand what changed first. They will simply feel that the old version of you is gone. Your body will speak. Your calm will speak. Your money habits will speak. Your skill will speak. Your output will speak. Your focus will speak. That is the final reveal. Not a dramatic announcement. Not a desperate attempt to be respected. A life so visibly changed that the room adjusts without being told. That is why silence is powerful. It lets the work grow without interference until the result becomes too big to ignore.
The men who hauled stone up mountainsides to build their monasteries were not running from the world. They were running towards something the world could not give them, and they understood its value enough to climb thousands of feet to find it. Silence. Not the absence of noise as a luxury, but silence as a tool, a technology for working on the one instrument that shapes everything else in a life, the mind itself. They knew that a brain submerged in constant input never gets the chance to sort, to integrate, to hear its own deeper signal beneath the surface chatter. So they built their lives around stillness deliberately, treating quiet as the serious work it is. Modern man has inherited their churches and forgotten their discipline, surrounded by more noise than any human in history. and wondering why his head never feels clear. Silence costs nothing, and that is exactly why no one values it. The market cannot sell you what is free, so an entire economy has been built to keep you from ever finding it, to fill every gap in your day with sound and stimulation and the endless scroll. You will spend money on supplements, courses, gadgets, anything with a price tag and a promise, while the single most powerful upgrade available to your brain sits there unused because it is free and requires nothing but your willingness to sit in it. The man who cannot be alone in a quiet room has been robbed of something he never knew he owned. And the theft was so gradual, so wrapped in convenience and entertainment, that he thanked the people stealing it from him. Silence is the one tool that cannot be bought, which is precisely why the men who need it most never seek it. Your brain has a mode it can only enter when the noise stops, and you have been denying it that mode for years. When external input finally goes quiet, the mind shifts into a different kind of processing, connecting ideas that were sitting unlinked, working through problems below the level of conscious effort, surfacing the insights that constant stimulation keeps buried. This is why answers arrive in the shower, on the walk, in the moments you finally stop feeding the machine. The solution was always in there. It just could not be heard over the racket. Every gap you fill with a podcast or a feed is a gap where this deeper processing would have happened, and you have been filling every single one. The man drowning in input is starving the exact faculty that would change his life, and he does it while believing he is keeping his mind sharp. Stillness is harder than effort, which is the secret no one warns you about. A man can run himself ragged with busyness and find it strangely comfortable, because motion is an escape, a way of never having to sit with himself. Ask that same man to sit in silence for 20 minutes with nothing to do and watch him squirm, reach for the phone, manufacture some urgent task, anything to avoid the discomfort of his own undistracted company. The busyness was the easy path all along. The silence is where the real difficulty lives, because silence strips away the noise you have been using to drown out the thoughts you do not want to face. This is why so few men ever claim its benefits. The price of entry is sitting with yourself honestly, and that is a price most will pay any amount of distraction to avoid. A still pond reflects the mountain perfectly, every detail sharp on its surface. Throw a single stone and the image shatters into chaos, the mountain unrecognizable in the churning water. Your mind works the same way. In stillness, it reflects reality clearly, shows you your situation as it actually is, reveals the right path with a clarity that feels almost obvious once the surface settles. But you keep throwing stones. A notification here, a video there, a constant stream of disturbance that keeps the water churning so the reflection never forms. Then you wonder why you cannot see your life clearly, why every decision feels murky, why the way forward stays hidden. The water was never going to settle while you kept disturbing it. Clarity is not something you chase. It is what remains when you finally stop agitating the surface and let the mind go still. The monks understood that silence is not empty, but full. The man who fears quiet assumes nothing is happening in it, that stillness equals waste, that any moment not filled with input or output is a moment lost. He has it exactly backward. The silence is where the integration happens, where experience gets metabolized into wisdom, where the scattered pieces of a life slowly assemble into understanding. A field left fallow is not doing nothing. It is restoring the fertility that constant planting would destroy. Your mind needs the same fallow periods, the same deliberate emptiness, or it depletes itself trying to produce on soil that never gets to rest. The relentless input culture has convinced you that every quiet moment is a moment wasted, when those quiet moments were always where the real growth was supposed to occur. Solitude and silence will show you who you actually are, and that terrifies people more than they admit. Strip away the noise, the distraction, the constant input that keeps you from yourself, and what remains is just you and your own mind, unmediated. For a man who has spent years avoiding that meeting, the encounter can be brutal at first. The thoughts he has been outrunning catch up. The feelings he has been drowning surface. The questions he has been dodging finally get asked in the quiet. This is why men fill every silence, not because they love the noise, but because the silence forces a confrontation they are not ready for. But on the other side of that confrontation is the only real self-knowledge available to a human being, the kind that cannot be read in a book or bought in a course. You have to earn it by sitting still long enough to finally meet yourself. Stillness is a skill, and like any skill, it is built through repetition and lost through neglect. The first attempts feel unbearable, the mind racing, the body restless, every cell demanding stimulation. This is withdrawal, the nervous system protesting the removal of the constant feeding it has grown dependent on, and it passes if you hold the line. Sit in the silence regularly and the racing slows. The restlessness fades. The capacity to be present without input gradually returns like a muscle, remembering its strength. Men who meditate for years do not have special brains. They simply practice the skill that everyone is born with, and modern life destroys the ability to be still. You can rebuild it too, but only the way it was always built, through reps, through showing up to the silence even when every instinct screams to escape it. The discomfort is not a sign to stop. It is the training working.
Extraordinary output does not come from a loud life. It comes from a protected life. A man cannot build something great while his mind is being pulled apart by every notification, every opinion, every argument, every trend, every message, every update, every crisis, and every little digital interruption begging for a piece of his attention. Great work requires a closed door somewhere. Not always a physical door, but a mental one. A place where the world cannot enter without permission. Silence means the mind gets enough space to go deep. Noise keeps the mind shallow because every interruption forces it to restart. This is why the pattern is so clear. The people who shaped history were not constantly available. They were not reacting to every tiny signal around them. They created distance from noise, then used that distance to think, build, write, design, train, lead, invent, and execute with force. A serious mind needs silence, the way fire needs oxygen. Without it, the flame may still exist, but it cannot grow large enough to change anything. Noise does not always sound like shouting. Sometimes noise is a phone on the table. Sometimes it is a group chat. Sometimes it is checking analytics every 10 minutes. Sometimes it is letting everyone know what you are working on instead of actually working. A man can sit in a quiet room and still live inside noise if his attention is constantly moving from one thing to another. The real question is not whether the environment looks peaceful. The real question is whether the mind has been allowed to stay with one problem long enough to solve it. Great work is rarely born from scattered attention. It comes from staying with one thing until it opens. Look at the people who produced work that lasted. They often had strange routines, private hours, isolated spaces, long walks, strict schedules, repeated rituals, and harsh boundaries around their time. That was not an accident. They understood something modern people keep forgetting. If your mind is always open to the world, Your best thoughts never get protected long enough to mature. A book needs silence. A business needs silence. A body transformation needs silence. A new skill needs silence. A powerful strategy needs silence. Every serious project begins as something fragile. Too much noise around it can break it before it becomes strong. Opinions enter. Doubt enters. Comparison enters. Distraction enters. Soon the work is no longer being built. It is being discussed, adjusted, defended, explained, and weakened. The loudest information environment in history has created a strange type of poverty. Not poverty of content, not poverty of knowledge, not poverty of access, poverty of attention. A man can learn almost anything today, yet he struggles to remain focused long enough to learn one thing deeply. He can reach millions of people, yet cannot sit alone with his own thoughts for 30 minutes. He can watch masters explain their craft, yet cannot repeat the boring basics long enough to become capable. This is not because people became stupid overnight. It is because noise trains the mind to seek speed instead of depth. Speed feels exciting, depth feels slow, yet depth is where power lives. A shallow mind can consume endlessly. A deep mind can create. Silence gives you something noise always steals. It gives you contact with the truth. When the noise stops, you begin hearing the real condition of your life. You notice the work you keep avoiding. You notice the skill you have not built. You notice the excuses that keep returning. You notice how scattered your days have become. You notice where your energy is leaking. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first. It removes the entertainment that helped you avoid the evidence. A man who cannot tolerate silence usually cannot tolerate honesty for very long, because silence brings back everything. He has been hiding under stimulation. Yet that honesty is exactly where change begins. No life improves until the man can see it without decoration. A noisy life makes you reactive. A silent life makes you deliberate. When noise controls you, your day gets shaped by whatever arrives first. A message changes your mood. A video changes your focus. A stranger's opinion changes your confidence. A headline changes your thoughts. A comparison changes your standards. This is a weak position to live from because it means the outside world holds the remote control. Silence returns that control to the owner. It slows the reaction. It creates space between stimulus and decision. A man in that space becomes harder to manipulate. He does not move because something flashed. He moves because something matters. That one difference changes the direction of an entire life.
Seneca walked away from the noise of Rome on purpose, and he built a practice around it that he called withdrawal into silence. He understood something that took modern science 2,000 years to confirm with brain scans and controlled studies. A man cannot see his own life while standing in the middle of the crowd, deafened by everyone's opinions, swept along by the chatter of 1,000 voices that have nothing to do with his actual path. The public square distorts everything. It tells you what to want, what to fear, what to chase, and it never once falls quiet long enough for you to ask whether any of it is yours. Seneca's answer was deliberate retreat, scheduled and protected, a daily escape from the noise so the truth could finally surface. He was not hiding from life. He was withdrawing far enough to finally see it. The constant chatter of public opinion is louder now than anything Seneca could have conceived. And it lives in your pocket, following you into every quiet moment you might have used to think. He worried about the gossip of the forum and the judgments of his peers. You carry a device that pipes the opinions of millions directly into your skull, all day, every day. a relentless stream of what everyone else thinks you should be. And it works on you exactly as he warned, drowning out your own judgment beneath the roar of the collective, until you can no longer tell your authentic thoughts from the ones the crowd installed. The man who never escapes this noise will live an entire life shaped by it, mistaking borrowed opinions for his own convictions. Seneca's solution was the only one that has ever worked. Withdraw. Get far enough from the crowd to hear yourself again. 30 minutes. That is what the research found, the threshold at which silent reflection begins producing measurable gains in self-awareness, in the quality of decisions, in the ability to regulate your own emotional storms. Half an hour of doing nothing but sitting with your own mind, and the brain reorganizes itself toward clarity and control. This should stop you cold, because 30 minutes is nothing, a fraction of what you pour daily into feeds that leave you worse off. The most powerful intervention available for upgrading how you think and decide and feel takes less time than you spend scrolling before breakfast, and it is free, and almost no one does it. The science has caught up completely with what the old philosopher knew. Solitude is not idleness. It is one of the highest leverage activities a human being can perform.